Witam Państwa z serca Doliny Krzemowej, z Palo Alto. Moje nazwisko Piotr Moncarz, przewodniczący Poland and Silicon Valley Center for Science, Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Witam Państwa z siedziby naszego wspólnego przedsięwzięcia Poland and Silicon Valley Center for Science, Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Magnificencje rektorzy, Szanowni Państwo, dzisiejsze drugie webinarium w naszym dialogu między naszym wspólnym centrum w Dolinie Krzemowej i jego partnerami uniwersyteckimi w Polsce kontynuuje temat wiodący. Szukajmy wspólnych punktów zainteresowania, szukajmy win-win opportunities. Pozdrawiam serdecznie i przekazuję mikrofon koledze Hamidowi Farzaneh, wiceprezesowi zarządu centrum, który poprowadzi dzisiejszą rozmowę. Hamid, the microphone is yours.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second of our series of webinar from Silicon Valley with top local experts. Our first one was on the evolution of design thinking. And today's is on fintech technologies. And I'll be talking with one of the top experts in this area, Daniel Chatelain. Daniel had a technical problem, so he might be a few minutes late. He had a power breakdown, and I will need to bring him on when he's ready. But in the meantime, what I would like to do is just to welcome our audience. So our audience today is composed of presidents, executives, faculty members, researchers, and staff of the most prestigious Polish universities. And these universities are really at the core of our agenda at the Poland in Silicon Valley Center for Science, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship. A quick introduction to Daniel Chatelain, who is going to be our guest today, and who is a top expert in the area of fintech. So Daniel started his career in France, and some 30 years ago, he moved to Silicon Valley, where he's been a core contributor to the revolution in financial services. Financial services are no longer what they used to be some 20, 30 years, or even a few years ago. And Daniel was core to contributing to that evolution and that revolution more than an evolution. So here, he's been part of some of the major waves of innovation. He's founded the BayPay forum that fostered innovation. Oh, welcome, Daniel. Okay, so your power outage is...
Yes.
Okay, glad to have you. So I was going through your quick introduction. So you have founded the BayPay Forum to foster innovation, and you're currently the CEO of Pay Academy, which also you also serve as a mentor at 500 Startups, Plug and Play, and Berkeley Venture Capital Groups. In addition to that, and I don't know where you find the time, but you're also on the board of some of the most innovative companies in this area. So welcome, Daniel. You are perfectly positioned, really, to discuss today's topic. And my first question is, what emerging applications of artificial intelligence and machine learning in finance holds the most potential for academic research, and why?
Well, thank you very much, Hamid, for your introduction, and sorry for the scare with the power outage. We're in Silicon Valley, maker of technology, and we can't even have power sometimes, so sorry about that. So yes, I've been in Silicon Valley for quite a few years, and I've seen different waves from internet, IoT, mobile, crypto, and now AI is a little bit broader I would say, trend that we've seen. And I'll try, because it's so broad, it can apply to so many disciplines and verticals. I try to narrow it down to first the financial sector, but also with a perspective for universities and research. So the intersection of AI, ML, machine learning, and finance is a rapidly evolving field, offering numerous avenues of academic research. So I'll try to list a few of them. First, while AI models have become increasingly sophisticated, their decision-making process also remain opaque. It's not always easy to understand how these decisions are made or the information is provided. So research into explainable AI techniques can enhance the transparency and accountability of AI-powered financial systems. This is particularly crucial for regulatory compliance, risk management, and building trust with clients. It's something which is a little bit specific to financial services. It's all the compliance and risk management that you don't have maybe in some other verticals. AI can play also a pivotal role in driving sustainable finance by analyzing vast amounts of ESG data to identify sustainable investment opportunities. Researchers can explore how AI can be used to assess the environmental and social impact of financial decisions, develop innovative green financial products, and promote sustainable business practices. So another leg of application is AI can also revolutionize personalized financial advice by tailoring recommendation to individual needs and risk tolerances. So researchers can investigate how AI can enhance financial literacy, improve retirement planning, and optimize investment strategies. So that's something also which is very important in the US compared to Europe, because most of the retirement plans are managed by people or by companies in the US compared to national plans in Europe. Another aspect which is also important is cybersecurity. So as cyber threats become more sophisticated and AI can be applied to defend system, but also is used by fraudsters to attack system. So you have the two sides of the equation of cybersecurity. So AI can be used to develop advanced fraud detection systems and cybersecurity solutions. Research in this area can focus on developing robust AI models to identify and mitigate emerging threats, protecting sensitive financial data. So
Okay, you just addressed one of the questions that I had, in fact.
Yeah,
And,
that part is, I think, need a little bit more drilling into.
Yes, it's a very interesting area. So maybe we should just for the next question, maybe we should talk specifically about what the issue of fraud is, how does it work, and how can really academic research contribute to it?
No, sure. So on the cyber security, oops, sorry, I have messages coming out from Zoom. So the AI/ML models have significantly enhanced fraud detection and prevention capabilities in the financial industry. So by analyzing vast amount of data, these models can identify patterns and anomalies. So I'm gonna look into the effectiveness on one side and also the limitations on the other side, because limitation can also provide for universities and researchers areas of investigation and development. So the AI models can identify complex fraud patterns that can be difficult for traditional rule-based systems to detect. So rule-based has been used for many, many years. Once this happens, then you can identify that there is a threat or now the sophistication is a little bit higher, so you need to have more sophisticated defense systems. Another aspect is the real-time aspect. So AI-powered system can analyze transactions in real time compared to humans who don't have the capability to do all this in real time, really. So this enables timely intervention and prevention of fraudulent activities. We've seen that in the US with systems like Zelle. When Zelle was starting going real time, then the fraud was really increasing. And that's, I think, also another aspect of why FedNow is not yet adopted by every bank in the US. It's because if the money is gone from the bank, then it's difficult to get it back. So banks are still, besides the bigger banks, the banks are still looking into the threats and what happened in terms of fraud and risk management because of the real-time aspect. Another aspect of AI algorithm, they can minimize false alarms and reducing operational costs and improving customer experience. On the limitation side, something which is important for AI is the data quality. So the effectiveness of AI models heavily relies on the quality and quantity of training data. Insufficient or biased data can lead to inaccurate prediction. So another thing also which is important is the evolving fraud tactics. It's not something that you have a particular attack and this attack will be always the same in the future. Fraudsters are constantly adapting their tactics, making it challenging for AI models to stay ahead. So continuous model retraining and updates are necessary to maintain effectiveness. Then there are two other things. One is the interpretability and explainability of AI. So while AI models can make accurate predictions, understanding the reasoning behind these decisions can be difficult. So lack of interpretability can hinder trust and regulatory compliance. If we have time, we can talk a little bit about the regulation in Europe and in the US on this aspect. The other aspect, the last one, is the training and deploying complex AI models can be computationally expensive, requiring significant hardware and software resources. So right now you have companies like NVIDIA being the big the elephant in the room, I would say, but you have many other companies like Grok and others which are developing hardware for not the training particularly, but more for the inference side of AI. So in conclusion, to address these limitations, researchers and practitioners should focus on developing more robust and adaptive AI models, improving data quality and quantity, and enhancing model interpretability. By combining AI with human expertise, we can create a more effective and resilient fraud detection and prevention framework.
Okay, do you want to expand maybe a little bit more on the white hat role that academics often play?
Yeah, so I worked several years in security. I run a company for Airbus, specialized on security systems, and you have two aspects on security. One is the black hat, I would say, the fraudsters who are willing to enter systems and hack them and steal the data or steal money. And the other one is the white hat aspect, which is you do some research to attack systems, not to steal the information, but to show the vulnerability of a system. That's why open source is so important, because if you look at systems like Linux and others, it's systems which are pretty robust because a lot of people have access to all the source code and everything. So like that, they can play with it and try to hack the system. And when they find a failure or a weakness, they can report it and this can be fixed. And I think it's one of the value in AI in particular of having, on one side, the corporate and closed AI systems and models. And on the other, you have a plethora of algorithm and models led by, on one side, Meta, but also many others, which are very useful for the industry.
Yeah, very good. So you also broached a little bit on some of the issues that impact ethical concerns.
Mhm.
And people talk a lot about all the good things and the bad things that AI could cause to society. And in the area of financial services, I think that ethical concerns are important because you want people to be treated fairly. And for example, when they ask for a loan, to be treated fairly rather than have some bias because of the color of their skin or their national origin or whatever impact the decision.
Mhm.
So maybe that you can tell us a little bit more about these concerns.
Yeah, that's a very important aspect of AI, I think. We've seen an example, and when Gemini was released to the public by Google, people starting, it could generate images and so on. And one image, excuse me, one series of images were about George Washington, and the models were trying to make things, even between races and so on. So it appeared that George Washington was black in these images, which is not true. So that's an example of how being biased can modify a model and have an impact on the results that you have. So now, the increasing adoption of AI in financial services raises significant ethical concerns, particularly in areas like customer profiling and risk assessment. These are two main areas. There are others, but I'll focus on these two. So AI algorithm can inadvertently perpetuate biases present in the training data, leading to discriminatory outcomes. For example, a bias algorithm might unfairly deny credit to certain individuals based on factors like race, gender, age, or even the address. Being in the US, you have different neighborhoods. If you live in a particular neighborhood, it means you have a lower income, and so you have maybe a higher risk in terms of credit. So all these elements are have to be managed in the AI model and in the training as well. Another aspect is AI models often rely on a vast amount of personal data, raising concerns about privacy and data security. Unauthorized access or misuse of this data could have also serious consequences. I came several times before on this important aspect, which is the transparency and the explainability of how you made this decision, how you come to this particular result. So AI models can be complex and difficult to understand. It's a little bit like a black box. You have all this training, and then you ask a question and you have a result, but you don't really understand yet how you came up to this conclusion. And so making it it's because it's difficult to understand, it makes it challenging to explain the decision process. So I think that's an area where research can be very important and valuable. It's the explainability of a particular decision. So not only giving the result, but also giving the how you came up to this conclusion. The last aspect, which we start seeing that I was in San Francisco at we had gathered representative from the state of California, some legal firms, some companies involved in transportation, and the discussion was about what will happen to all the workforce, all the truckers, the drivers of the trucks, when we will have trucks driving themselves. And so the first conclusion was that yes, you will have losses in terms of labor forces, but you will have also to retrain all these people to do some other task as well. So the impact on the workforce, I think, is also an area of research which is not yet complete, and we have a lot of work to do on that. It's not just for the financial industry, which I think is more prone to be disrupted in terms of labor, because you have a lot of people who are just doing routine work and repetitive tasks. Also, all this can be managed by AI agents in the future.
Okay, so a few of the things that you mentioned pointed to the fact that there needs to be some regulations about AI, both on ethical concerns and really fraud and so on. So that is really a difficult issue, because you have European regulation, you have US regulation, you have international bodies and so on. So how do you see that progressing? Because we're still at the early evolution of AI, and we're just scratched the surface of it. How effectively and how soon can regulation really be developed and applied?
Yeah, so that's a very important question. I think Europe and the US have taken different positions on this. The US started inviting people from the industry and from the academic world to hear them and understand a little bit what was going on. So I'm a little bit split on the regulation side. I think we need some, but not too much. So like that innovation can foster. And I remember being at a building in San Francisco from the Secret Service, and we had the Deputy Secretary of the Treasury of the US, and we have all the biggest bank in the US. They invited me to speak about innovation in payments at the time and in fintech. And my message was always, look, try to be a little bit lenient for this new initiative, at least done by startups, and so we can test, we can learn, and then when it's the bigger guys in the room, then yes, regulate a little bit more, because there is so much at stake. But I think we have to be cautious with that. Regulation is also a way to create barriers of entry. So you don't want to create barriers too soon for people to enter the field and not being able to achieve certain results. So regulators face really significant challenges in keeping pace with the rapid evolution of AI. Regulators are not the only one. It's one in many. But
So what do you see as the role of universities and academics in that area?
Yeah, so you have I think universities have a role in maybe managing collaboration between the industry on one side and the regulators on the other. You need everybody has to learn about the technologies, but also the application of the technologies, the consequences of the applications. So universities have a major role here. Also you need to create sandboxes. In the US we have 50 different states. Pretty much, if you want to do payments in the US, you need to have a money transmitter license for all these states. So some of them have started creating these sandboxes where you start working with within the sandbox. Europe is doing the same with tokenization of assets as well. I think we can have the same type of initiatives in AI within a regulatory framework. And also, I think you have also the participants have also to be self-regulated. You know, you have laws that apply if you are damaging the reputation of people, or then it's not good at all. So it's not just AI, it's the application and the consequences also of AI that can be also regulated. And for that, we have many laws on that.
Very, very good. Thank you, Daniel. What do you see as the main methodological challenges in applying AI to complex financial data? And how can academics really address and help with that?
Yeah, so that's maybe a little bit more technical question, but I'll try to answer the best I can, and I hope I won't lose the audience on with my answer. But the first thing I would see is the data quality, data cleaning, data pre-processing. Because if you give AI training models bad data, the results will be impacted. So I think it's something which is important. We were together with a big insurance company talking to the chief data officer, and it's not the fact that they have no data, they have a lot of data. The problem is to identify the quality based on the source and being able to tag it so the AI models then can use this, not just data in the source, but also the meta tagging that can be applied to qualify better the data. So there is still some work to do on this, and academics can be involved in putting a framework around that to make it more make it easy for people to pre-process transaction and data. So the data augmentation also is a technique that can be used. So techniques like synthetic data generation and data imputation can be used to address data scarcity and improve model performance. On the engineering side, you have what is the most relevant feature from a large data set that can be highlighted, and this can be really challenging as well. Constructing new features that capture underlying patterns can significantly improve the model performance as well. Now you have also the model complexity aspect. Choosing, you have a lot of different models right now. So choosing the right model architecture, so you can maybe sometimes combine the different models. You have things like Ollama today that can allow you to use different types of LLMs and different models, and combining this can help you get better results. You have also you have different types of underlying models like neural network, decision trees, ensemble methods. So you have to combine a little bit all these to have better results as well. The fine-tuning also of the model hyperparameters, I would say, can significantly impact the performance. Now you have I talked several times about interpretability and explainability. So now you have some techniques that you can apply, like SHAP. So SHAP is the Shapley adaptive additive explanations. So that's one technique. Or you have also another one, LIME, which is the local interpretable model agnostic explanation. So these techniques can be used, and you can have now more explainability on what's happening within your model in the model prediction. Also the model simplification. You have a race with these 20 billion tokens in the model. So this can be done only by people with a lot of resources like Google, like Microsoft, Meta, and so on. But now you start having also a trend, which is a simplification of the model. So you can use a linear regression or decision tree to make it a little bit simpler, and also importantly run on machines that you use every day and not this gigantic cloud-based training hardware. The model validation also and testing is important. You should test your models and on diverse data sets. So like that, you can see a little bit the differences of results based on the data set that you're using. So that these are different aspects of the methodological challenges that we have to solve.
Yeah, so how about your vision about whether in that area, whether Europe and the US are converging or diverging? Because the laws are different in Europe, in the EU versus the US. The US is much more permissive than the EU is. And in fact, it's one of the person in the audience who raised a question, say, how can we really use data to train a model in the US, given the fact that the owner of the data has to be informed whenever we do that? So practically, how can you really do that as a researcher, obtain authorization from hundreds of thousands of people or tens of thousands, any number of people, in order to use their data to train the model?
Yeah, so that's a very important question. First, on the first part of your question, the differences between the US and Europe. Europe decided to pass a new regulation, which is the AI Act. I think it was passed in May of this year. It was approved by the European Council. And this is interesting, goes along the way of GDPR and all the regulation that come before. The intent is to protect individuals, of course, and make sure that AI is not, taking a spin and being too creative in its decisions. But I think it's still a little bit early to regulate. We have so much work to do today before we understand completely the scope of what can be done. Now, the personal data and the data access, it's a debate that in the US we took another stand, which is instead of regulating completely, we have a lot of lawyers in the US, and sometimes regulation is done through legal battles. We've seen that in crypto. The SEC fighting Ripple, fighting Coinbase, and many other companies, and these companies are fighting back. So like that, there is a kind of equilibrium of what can be done and what can't be done in the US. I think with AI, we have the same issue, which is all these models are using data which is available on the internet. Now, that was the first step. Now, a lot of companies are saying, look, you're making money off data that we own, so you can't use our data. The one good example is the lawsuit that the New York Times had with OpenAI, because they say, look, you're scrapping our site, you're getting all the information, and now people are not coming to our site because they just have to go to ChatGPT, ask a question, and get the answer about the article. Perplexity, which is another company in San Francisco providing an AI agent, is doing a little bit the same, but is providing the link to the original information. So you can still, as a user, ask a question, get your answer, and go to the site to have more details about the answer. So now you have these bigger companies starting to deal with these companies directly, so they can integrate one way or another. So meaning it's available for everybody or available only for people who have a subscription with the New York Times, for example, or with Reddit, or with these companies that have a large community. And now they can integrate all these results and provide the answers to the users. So I think it's still a work in progress in terms of data and data privacy. In the financial world, you have service bureaus. Service bureaus have been here for a very long time, and what is it? They share all the banks, all the credit institutions are sharing their data to say, look, this person has a particular loan or a particular credit card, they're late on their payment or they're always on time for their payments. And based on all this, they provide a score that can be used by new institutions to provide to extend more credit or not. So the companies like Experian and so on are doing this for the rest of the financial industry. So you have already in the US some data sharing without having the user to consent to anything. In Europe, it's completely the other side. You have to have consent. And I think with if you look at in the US, what the state of California is doing, it's intermediary step between what Europe is doing and the rest of the US. So now you start having this request to consent to having your data being shared either to advertisers, to advertising platform, but also for AI, and it's embedded into this particular request to consent to share data.
So going back to the case of our audience, which is in the EU, how can they really proceed with training AI models, given the limitations on financial personal data?
Yeah. So I think there is already something that's available in the commerce space and in the credit card and financial space, which is the tokenization of the data, meaning that you are not providing personal information. It's not AMID, credit card information and all the transaction. It's someone, it's a token, and you have now, because you have all this data about anonymized data, then you can apply this algorithm and find some pattern in the data without knowing specifically if it's Hamid or Daniel who is behind these particular transactions. So I think that's the easiest way to do it. This way you can share data without sharing the identity of the individual behind this data. And I think it's enough to identify the patterns. What you want is at a certain level to see the different trends and not particularly to see if this particular person is diverging from his past behavior. I think it's another scope of so other people may be interested by that, but at the academic level, I think it's a little bit too granular.
Okay. Another question that I would have is, and that also one of the audiences touched on that, is the role and the relative power of large companies versus individuals versus academia and so on. Obviously, you will all know that there had been a revolution in terms of corporations over the last 25 years. You know, Google 25 years ago was almost non-existent. And you have a handful of similar companies that have grown to become the highest valued companies in the world. In addition, and more recently, you have OpenAI, which like 3 years ago was an unknown, and today everyone knows about ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's the beginning of things. So in the US, corporations do work with universities. They do fund a lot of the research in universities and so on. And how is that relationship in the EU or with the EU?
Yeah, so So first, the first part of the question, the big corporations. So today you have the US, which is when a company is getting too big, and we've seen that with Microsoft a long time ago, where they wanted to break down Microsoft because Microsoft had a monopoly in terms of operating system, but also was embedding Internet Explorer within the operating system, making it pretty much a death warrant for every browser in the space. So they had to negotiate with the administration, the US administration, to separate the different entity, not legally at the corporate level, but at least at the product level. So the operating system is one thing, the browser is another. So instead of installing automatically Internet Explorer, you had to act on it. So you had a chance to download Netscape or other types of browsers, Chrome and others, Firefox. So this big corporation now, right now, they are even getting bigger. There is no discussion right now about Microsoft being attacked because they went through the process, they agreed to some terms. Google now is the next target because of its monopoly on search. I think it's a little bit too late because now you have, if you look at the next wave, the first was the Yahoo of the world, where you have all your information and they categorized everything for you. And then came Google disrupting them on the search side because you just had one field, you enter your question and you get all the answers, or all the references to the answers, I would say. And that's how they were able to add the ads into the results. Now we're at another stage where people are not just willing to search, they want answers. So it's a much faster way to get what you want. And so that's why you have ChatGPT, Claude, you have Gemini, you have Perplexity, and many others, where you ask a question and you get your answer. Now, it may be wrong or not really accurate. It's still a work in progress. But this has a risk of bypassing all the search, because now, if you don't need to go through a lot of different URLs to find the answer, but you have the answer right away, why go to a search? So I think it's a potential threat for Google, and that's why this a lawsuit from a Department of Justice is coming a little bit late. So we'll see where it goes. We have elections in tomorrow, so maybe the result of this election will change things in the future. But definitely, the US is looking at when a company is too big to crack down on them and try to split them so they are not as big anymore. Europe has a very different take on that. They know they can't dismantle Google or Apple, but they can try to first find them. So you have a lot of money that's poured into Europe from these large corporations because of legal battles. And the second is you have also an impact on their business model. For example, Apple had to open up their app store, so like that other people could have an app store and bring apps to the iPhone and iPads and the Apple ecosystem without being from Apple. So that's something that's also another way to take the regulation. So that's the overall landscape, I would say, the differences between Europe and the US on that.
Very good. And there was, let me look at the questions now, so to see, because we have another 15 minutes and we can probably go through a few questions. Just give me a moment to get the questions here. Where is it? Sorry, I have a bit of technical problem here.
Okay. Maybe I can add something on what's
Sure, yeah,
coming
yeah, go ahead,
in
yes.
terms of AI while you
Yes.
look at that. So if you look at the evolution, first you had AI being able to be trained and with a lot of data. Now you have more and more data added to this, so you have a lot of token. It can also do a lot of different things like giving you answers, but also now through the creation of agents, these agents can start working for you and delivering a task, not just answers. So I think that's a little bit what's coming, and there is also an opportunity for that. The impact of that is that what traditionally was done through software being in the cloud or on premise may be shifted towards these different agents. And so if you look at the enterprise world and even banks, instead of having all this data and processes and software, ERP software and so on, you may just have an AI agent that will be here in the enterprise to give you answers. Like, for example, if you want to look for a particular order and see if it has been delivered, paid, and so on, instead of going into an ERP system, an AI agent will be able to give you the answer right away. And so you've seen some premises of that through companies like Affirm, which said recently that they're going to get rid of Salesforce, of Workday on the HR side, and they're going to use just AI, pure data storage, maybe cleaned, and then you have a AI that will give you the answer for doing your job. So I think that's another area where it may disrupt the whole industry, and these big companies you mentioned may be disrupted as well, because now we don't need their software anymore. Companies like Salesforce, they have a lot of data and they want to apply data on the customers' information so they can provide their own agents. But another alternative is, why do I need Salesforce anymore? Because I just need my data and apply agents on this data.
So what do you think that the impact of that, and that is one of the questions from the audience, well, what would that be, the impact of AI on the labor market in financial services?
Yeah, so I think you will have cuts on this, definitely. You have you have different sides, and it applies to financial services as well as other industries. If you have a repetitive task, if you have things that can be done by an agent, you are at risk in terms of your job. All the companies will not pull the trigger because they have different aspiration in terms of human management. But if you are looking for efficiency, there are definitely ways to eliminate a lot of jobs. You've seen the controversial move of Elon Musk going to Twitter. He comes with his team and pretty much from the beginning, from the ground up, eliminates tons of jobs, all the intermediary levels, because they weren't doing anything, not producing anything. And this had an impact on the rest of the Silicon Valley big tech, who started as well eliminating some jobs. In banks, you have the same thing, that you start seeing some jobs eliminated. If you look in wealth management, for example, now you can have AI doing the analysis for you or collecting all the data, giving you the report in a time frame which is much shorter than when you have analysts. It doesn't eliminate the people who are the gray cells of the bank, but all the lower level and mid level are a little bit
Yeah.
in
That's
danger.
one of the big concerns that exists, I think, almost everywhere on both sides of the Atlantic. But that is a different issue, and I think that might be the topic for another webinar altogether, because it's
Yeah.
a very complicated issue.
Yeah, I hope you will
So-
touch on robotics and so on, because
Yes,
it's another
exactly.
area where
Right.
it's going to threaten labor
Yeah.
force.
So let's go to another question from the audience, and that is, what is your opinion on developing explainable AI? And what would be the role of university and academics in that area?
Yeah, so I think if you look at the regulation being European or the US in the financial industry, you have, if for example you have a credit application, so people are filling fields, you do maybe some background check or different check with different organizations that have information about you, at least in the US. And or you call another bank, which because you know the customer is there, so it's a human interaction instead of automated. And so you go through different stages in the process to know if you can extend a loan to either this individual or this entity. It can be a small business as well. It's included for me. And so now, when you make these decisions, the regulators can come at any time and say, look, we want to audit your lending process. And in this case, they can go through all the cases that you had and try to understand why you made these decisions. If you made a wrong decision, if it's biased, if it's not biased. So that's why the use of AI in this particular field is still a little bit dangerous, because today you're not able completely to explain why you made this decision. So that's why in parallel to this, and I think it's something that you have to do when you process the application, it's to store as well the reasoning behind the decision. And this reasoning should be also in the case stored with the application. So like that, the regulators can understand not only the decision, the profile of the person, but also the reasoning and the different steps you took to make this decision. And that's what I interpret as explainability. It's not black and white. Yes, you have the credit, or no, you don't. It's explaining why. And maybe also somebody is asking for this amount, and maybe you can decrease it because the profile is a little bit too risky. There are some adaptations on that. But the reasoning part is important, and the storing of this reasoning part with the case, so regulators can go back to it later.
Right, right. Another question from the audience that also touches on regulation, and that is that, in your opinion, should there be really a debate between Europe and US to prepare common regulations rather than diverging, trying to converge on common regulations? And if that were to happen, wouldn't speed up AI development?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, because if I look at, I don't know if you heard about the Draghi report that was published a few weeks ago. Europe is starting realizing that the model may be a little bit challenged right now. And I'm going to extend a little bit outside of the financial industry, because it's a broader issue.
Right.
If you look at manufacturing, Germany was very strong in terms of solar, building solar cells and so on. And then they started dealing with China, and China had this big strategy to pretty much take over the market. And they had the rare earth metals, and they have the manufacturing capability, and they decreased the price so much that it wasn't worth it anymore for German companies to continue building these plants. And the result of this is that today you have no manufacturing of the solar cells in Europe. Everything is in China or other countries. In terms of car manufacturing, the Chinese as well started a little bit with the help of Tesla. When Tesla arrived, the EV industry was really non-existent, and that's why they were able to bring their plant and get 100% of the company. So they didn't do a joint venture like in any other industry. And the intent of the government was to be able to understand how to make this, and then you have these companies like BYD and XPeng and so on, which are taking over the market because they can produce EV vehicles for $10,000. And now the impact on the European manufacturing is that Volkswagen and Mercedes, BMW are struggling a little bit and starting limiting the manufacturing in Europe. And so if this trend continues, now you won't have any car manufacturing in Europe anymore. So I think with AI, it's a little bit the same. The Europe needs to have its own AI, I think, and not just rely on the US. It's a region which is populated. It's a great economy. They depend a little bit on the US for sure, but it's an exchange which is between kind of equal, even if the companies in the US are much bigger, and you have a financial market that allows also for these companies to get funding very easily. That's what's missing a little bit in Europe. You need to create a financial market so people in Europe can invest in their own companies. And so for AI, it's the same. You need a European initiative and not just rely on OpenAI and Google for this. And you have some companies like Mistral in France. They are, pretty equal with the others with much less resources. So if you were giving them a little bit more resources and have also other companies in the rest of Europe, I'm sure in Poland you have great data scientists and so on. So if they had a little bit more resources, they could achieve a lot as well.
Yes, I completely agree. I think that really the assets that exist in Europe are no less than what exists in the US. But one major difference might be the appetite for risk.
Yes.
This is why, in the US, you can have 5 startups that fail and you still get funding for your 6th startup.
Yeah.
That in Europe would be more difficult because there's less appetite for risk. So we have time for one last question from the audience, and I'm going to read it here. It says, our applications are aimed at implementation in the industry, but what the industry needs really are very specific and special solutions. And so we need AI specifically for industrial applications. And what do you see as the main features for such AI for industrial applications?
Yeah, so that's an interesting aspect. I think if you look at the industry and the industry relies on machines, engines, and the issue is that you need to first fix the problem of getting access to the data from all these machines. If you don't have data from this machine, it's sensors that you add and so on. You need to build this infrastructure on top of the existing one. So if you are producing energy and so on, it's not just the output of the machine that's important. It's also the internal elements to prevent failure, to anticipate maintenance that you have to do on the machine, how long this particular part has been working, and so on. So it's a little bit granular, but you first have all this infrastructure in place, and you put a layer of sensors and data capture, and then you can have more relevant decision and avoid catastrophe or avoid disruption. I mentioned the power outage of PG&E here. How can we have that nowadays? It's incredible that we lose power like that, and it's been 6 times in the last 3 weeks. So it's I think the data can really help, and then you can apply the AI on this to define what you want to achieve.
Yeah, that's a good point, because what might be missing is that in industrial complexes, in industrial plants, there can be limited amount of data available from machines.
Mhm.
So at the machine level. So first you have to add these sensors, get the data, and then with the data, now you can apply AI technology on top of that to make things run much more efficiently.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So Daniel, thank you very much. This brings us to the end of our webinar. And there's still a few questions, but unfortunately we don't have time to address them. And so thank you, and thank you to the audience. And we're looking forward to see you at our next webinar, which is going to be a week from now.
Thank you, Amit, for the opportunity to participate. And if people have questions, they can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to answer their questions.
Great, perfect. All right. So thank you, everyone, and have a good day and good evening.
Thank you.